Hi, everyone. My name is Lynn Quinn. I'm the founder and host of Fan to Fame. We're here today with one of the best linebackers to have played in the NFL, a four-time Pro Bowl selection, named one of the 7 greatest Redskins, and was inducted to the Washington Ring of Fame. Please help me welcome Washington football team legend, Ken Harvey. How you doing, Ken?
I'm doing well. That's a pretty powerful introduction. Thank you. Um, I like to think I was a good player. I don't know about one of the best, but it's cool to get paid to do what you enjoy doing, right? And I had fun playing in the NFL and had a good time and did it. It was my thing.
Jumping into it, you're from Texas. Everyone who knows and follows the sport of football knows you guys are very passionate down there for the game. How was it first introduced to you?
So for me, I'm from Texas, but I was like in the house watching TV all the time, that type of guy. My parents are like, you need to get out the house and you need to do something. And so football was the thing that they pushed me into. And so I started playing Pop Warner football and did that for a while. Fortunately, I wasn't massively overly talented or super big or anything like that. But I did have a hard head. And so it paid off, right? You get to hit people, get a little pat on the back, and you got out the house. And so that's how I was introduced. Was my parents were saying, like most parents back in the day, you got to get out the house, quit watching TV. I
Right.
guess nowadays, just quit playing on the games or being on your phone. You got to get out and do something, experience life, and that's how I first started.
Throughout high school, you were in Texas. Then you went over to University of California, Berkeley. Um,
So there's a little skip in between. So I was in high school. I dropped out of high school,
oh,
went back, didn't play my senior year of high school football, met a guy in a gym who told me about a junior college in Oakland, California. Me and another guy named Vernon Hadnot, we saved up some money, went to this junior college in Oakland, California, played there for 2 years, then got a scholarship to University of California, Berkeley.
oh wow. Okay.
Yeah,
I did not know that side of the story. See,
yeah,
this
yeah,
is
yeah.
why this is great to hear people's background because I think for fans like myself, we see you on big screen, but we don't know what you went through in life and what kind of got to where you are. So that's amazing. Could you
Yeah, it
kind of
was pretty.
share like when you dropped out of high school, what was it that brought you back and what was some things that you learned throughout that process of like I need to go back and finish out?
So, for me, it was I was a lost kid, right? And,
Mhm.
like a lot of kids are intelligent, maybe in different ways, maybe
Right.
it's not test wise or whatever, but lost in high school, trying to find yourself. And for the fact that you have to do it, most kids stay with it. But for
Right.
me, the pressure, I guess, of trying to play football, but then I started missing a lot of school
Hmm.
and wasn't getting into anything, just missing school and staying at home. And, and so it got to the point where it was either, get straight F's, drop out of school, or them putting me in easy classes just to get me by to
Right.
graduate. And so in my mind, it was like, I need to drop out, get my mind right, decide that this is what I want to do, and then go back. And so,
Mhm.
that's what I did. But then in between that dropout time and going back, you're walking around and people are looking at you like you're a loser, you're a dropout, you're a dummy. And you can believe the words that people put on you. You can believe
Right.
that that's who you are. And so I got to a point where, I was super depressed, didn't think I belonged in this world, didn't think I was meant for this world,
Hmm.
praying to God and feel like to me at the time, God said, you got a destiny and a purpose for your life and you just have to believe. And
Right.
so during that time, once you start believing in something, you'll start focusing on it. So, I knew I had to go back to school. Felt like I was supposed to be doing something great. I I knew that the only way to get to college, because I wanted to prove to everybody I wasn't stupid. So the only way to get to college was through football, because
Right.
my grades weren't that good. And even football was an obstacle because I didn't play my senior year. So I was figuring I was going to go to a junior college. So I would
Hmm.
train by myself with the belief that I was going to go to college, even though
Right.
everything in the world said you weren't going to do it, you couldn't
Hmm.
do it. So I kept doing that. And then ultimately, when your eyes are open, things pop up around you that you will probably walk past. And that's when I met a
Right.
guy in the gym you start speaking into existence. Oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Somebody may listen.
Right.
The guy in the gym, he told me about this junior college that this was their first year of taking players from out of state. They couldn't offer any money, but they wanted to, they were willing to take a look at me and this other guy. And by that time I was, I was pretty strong. I was benching around 400 pounds, all that stuff. So it worked out. And I went there, and like everything, you just keep your eyes on the prize. And that's what I did. And it worked out.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of folks, like you said, during that time frame, when we're in high school, we're about 15 to 18 years old. That's the age where I feel like a lot of folks, it's easily to get down to wheelhouse where you're feeling lost or kind of don't know where you're going to go at.
Right.
So I think for a lot of folks, like you said, they kind of depend on sports, a certain things that kind of keep them in there. For me, I would even say sports, even though I wasn't a professional athlete like yourself, that was something I looked forward to each day. I was like, I didn't care about going to classes each day, but what I wanted to do, see my friends, I wanted to go play in the game. And effort to do that, I had to go to the classes. So that's very inspiring. And I definitely did not know that.
But then I always kind of look at like kids who, could you imagine going through 4 years of high school and no one talks to you, just being
it's tough.
Every
that
day.
That happens a lot.
Right. And every day is just, I can't wait to get out of here. I can't wait to be, and so, for me, it was fortunate I was able to go back to see the world, get a different perspective of life.
Mm-hmm.
But I say that to say that, even with COVID, it's given even young people an opportunity to look around and say, there are a lot of lonely people out there who are good people.
Right.
And don't judge a book by its cover. Try
Absolutely.
to be polite and treat everybody with respect. And so, fortunately, there were a lot of good people around me who little things, and will probably never got the recognition or never gotten the recognition that they deserve, but have helped and planted seeds in me to help point me in the right direction. And so, hopefully I'm doing that to others now.
Yeah. I met you, right before we jumped on here, I met you about 3 years ago in 2018 at a event. You're very heavily involved in the community. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, I'm hoping. But that was one of the first things that kind of popped out of my mind. I was kind of intimidated when I first met you. I was like, man, he was very successful. He's going to have a big ego. But when I met you, you were far from that. And that was very inspiring to hear and kind of see myself. And like you said, everyone, whatever route you take, you don't get there alone. There's always someone there to kind of pick you up and kind of help you get to where you're at. And that's something I try to remind myself as well. So.
That and sometimes you can catch me on a bad day and I'm not the best.
That's everybody.
Right? That's everybody. But I know with my two boys, when you have your own kids, they're less of a fan of you than they are of somebody else. And
of course, you're dad to them.
Right, I'm dad. When they get a chance to meet that other person, and you see how, if that person treats your kids with respect, how great that is. Mm-hmm. Or even with my dad, like when I took him to the Pro Bowl and he got a chance to meet some of his favorite players and they treated him with so much respect, mm-hmm. to me, that's the world. So that always stuck in my mind to say, treat everybody with respect, because for you, it may be nothing, but for them, it could be the one moment in their life that they remember forever. Right.
Absolutely.
And so I try to treat people with respect, but usually I've gotten better, but I'm still kind of awkwardly a little shy, a little bit kind of.
Really? You being shy? I don't get that at all.
I used to be a lot more.
Okay.
And so people would come up to me and be like, oh man, you're Ken Harvey. And I don't know, I wouldn't know what to say. I'm like, yeah. And then it just stops, they look at me and I look at them and I don't know what to say. But I'll try to have some type of little conversation because, it's just a matter of treating people with respect. And I, like I said, that feeling when my boys and my dad were treated that way, mm-hmm. that's the greatest thing in the world to me. And I would never want to not treat somebody the same way. Although on the other side of it, it goes both ways. I've had some fans that have been, overbearing and rude and all that stuff. But treat me with respect. I'll try to treat you with respect.
We need more people like that, Ken. So I appreciate that message.
Yeah, no problem. Look, it's the reality, right?
It's the reality, yeah. But a lot of people don't have that, so I'm glad you mentioned that.
Well, respect is something that we think is automatic, but it's something that has to be taught, mm-hmm. and we're not necessarily teaching it to our kids or to the next generation or even to each other. I mean, if you look at
Right.
TV half the time and in the world, it's not about respect each other. It's calling someone names. It's,
Right.
pointing people out. It's separating yourself. It's
Yeah.
saying everything that's wrong. And that's not good. That's not a good way to be.
Yeah. No, I'm 100% with you. So definitely appreciate that message. So what brought you to University of California, Berkeley? Because being from Texas and specifically in Austin, UT is in your backyard. Was there any interest with them at the
Very, very
time?
good question. Very, very. The biggest thing was one, I went to junior college and I was hoping, they'd be like, man, this is one of our boys from Texas. We need to have
Right.
him back. But I did not get a phone call. And then the University of California, Berkeley was interested in me. And there were a couple of reasons. One, my girlfriend then, wife now. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
it'll be 32 years in a couple of days.
Congratulations. I need to take some notes from you after this. We'll talk offline.
You take notes from her because she has to deal with me. But it was, she was there, so that was part of it. Another part was that, I saw that as a junior college player, you want to get publicity with the potential maybe to go to the pros. So
Right.
going to Berkeley, I could prove a point. One, I wanted to prove I wasn't stupid, dumb. So how can you go from a dropout in high school to one of the top schools in the country?
Right.
Two, there was a player named Harvey Nickerson who was a senior, and all the scouts were looking at him. This is the big guy. And so I knew coming from a junior college, if I go to Berkeley as a junior, if they're looking at him, then they'll have to look at me because we both play linebacker position. And so it was kind of a strategic move on all fronts, and it just worked out. And so I had a couple other schools looking at me, but it was right in my wheelhouse, and it worked out going there. I did want to go back to UT. When it came draft time, I was hoping Cowboys would have called me up because you wanted to be back home, to show your parents and stuff. The greatest revenge is success. But that didn't happen. As a matter of fact, ultimately it ended up being opposite, coming to the Washington football team.
Hey, I'm happy it did. And so it sounds like you were a Cowboys fan growing up.
Oh, no doubt. We were so much fans. Like I tell people there were some Sundays that we didn't eat because my mom was pissed off that the Cowboys lost. There was that type of everybody.
That sounds like me as a Skins fan and watching football team when we lose to the Cowboys.
Right? It's every people are diehard, and it was that bonding. So you definitely, growing up, I wanted to be like Too Tall Jones, Harvey Martin, big defensive ends. I wasn't big enough to be a defensive end per se, and so I ended up playing linebacker. But that was who I wanted to be like, those guys, because that's what you grew up watching. And then, fortunately, the year that I came out, everybody was looking for the next LT.
Right.
Everybody wanted the next linebacker that's going to be the
who wouldn't.
So the first person taken in the draft was Andre Bruce, who was a linebacker. The first person taken in the draft was a linebacker, and it just kind of went from there. So I was just fortunate in a lot of different directions.
It's just crazy how the universe kind of comes together. There's always times where you wish you could have done this or done that, but it all works out in a day, and you're a prime example of that. Can you maybe talk about when you went from a junior college, went to Berkeley, like you said, who would have thought a high school dropout is now at one of the best schools, most recognized. How was that transition, just even as a student? Because from high school to college is totally different, but to kind of be where the position you were, like, how was that transition? How'd you deal with that?
Okay, so on two fronts, like I don't want to say naturally smart. I was smart.
Right.
In the fact that I watched a lot of TV, so I knew a lot of things.
Right.
What I lacked was probably the study habits.
Right.
My youngest son told us one time as he was in college, he said, "I get it now. I know how to study. I know how to, and so I lacked the study habits, but I wasn't dumb. I could
absolutely.
I could pick up on some things pretty easy. Going there from Texas to California, to me it was like an adventure, and you got a chance to see the world in a way that you hadn't seen it, because look at, well, it's changed now, but 50-60% of the people never live or get outside their surroundings, right? And so for me, it's like you're looking and you go from Texas to seeing the Golden Gate Bridge and seeing
Right.
the Bay Area and meeting people and hearing about People's Park and all this stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, this is an adventure. And every day was like it's like a fantasy. It was like a dream.
Right.
And so the main thing was to focus on getting the grades. And I just had a lot of good people around me that really helped me, mentorship, friends,
Mhm.
whatever, that really helped me uh, through school. And, Berkeley is one of those schools that we're not going to give you grades. You got to earn them.
Absolutely. You
So
got to
you
earn
just
it.
have to work. You have to work it. Yeah.
No, that's really cool. I mean, when I think about college, I mean, I graduated a few years back, but I always talk about college's experience. And I mentor a lot of kids nowadays, first generation students like myself. I was a first generation high school students. I always tell them, say, hey, stay focused. You're gonna have your fun. It's about experience, but you got to stay focused at it. If not, you're gonna lose it. So that was my motivation for me. Like I like to go out and do stuff, but that was my motivation to study when I had to and just get things.
Right.
Work hard, play harder. That was my philosophy. It still is.
I mean, no doubt, right? It's fun. College is fun. It's a great
Yeah.
experience, but you can easily get caught up in that
Yep,
trap. And you've
exactly.
seen guys, I'm sure you've seen guys, I've seen
Mhm.
guys, especially on a football team, all the talent in the world,
Yeah.
get caught up in the world and
Yep.
it loses, you lose it. So enjoy it, but don't enjoy it so
Gotta
much.
stay
You
focused.
lose
So
focus.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So after being at Berkeley, you get drafted first round, Arizona Cardinals. Did you have a good sense you're going to go there? And how was your experience in Arizona?
If you don't mind me indulging me for minutes, because I'm gonna talk for
Go
a few
ahead.
minutes,
This is your floor.
so I'm playing ball and everybody's like, you look like you have the chance to get drafted, but probably in the latter rounds you probably get drafted way in the back rounds, right? And so I go and we have a game overseas. This is our last game of the season. We play Washington State in Japan.
Mhm. Oh wow. Okay.
And I was the most valuable defensive player in that game. Come
Mhm.
back and we have postseason games. So it was an East-West Shrine game. I was the most valuable defensive player in that game. The Senior Bowl, I was the most valuable defensive player in that game.
Mhm.
And so now it was looking like, you may get drafted. And they were like, probably fifth round, sixth round, something like that. So I was
Right.
kind of like, cool, this is a chance. And I went to the combine and did really well for my size and speed and what at that time what they were looking at. And so now all of a sudden the talk was like, maybe third, fourth round, maybe something like that. Never really talked to the Cardinals.
Okay.
And so I didn't even know they were interested in me. Then I get this phone call, hey, Ken, this is the Cardinals. Would you be interested in playing with us?
Right.
Yeah. And so stay tuned. And you're watching it on TV, and then they do the announcement, Ken Harvey, 12 pick, Arizona Cardinals. Freaking out.
Yeah.
Excited, right? And so I do that. I get drafted. This is the story afterwards. So there's two things. One, I was working during the college. I used to work security,
Okay.
boxing matches, right? So I did this boxing match, me and a buddy, another former football player, and I get, I'm drafted. You got time between you're drafted to when you got to report to camp. So I'm
Right.
finishing up, and they announce me. I go in the ring. I'm raising my hands. Everybody's. I thought people were cheering, but most people didn't cheer because they didn't even know,
Right.
and especially because the team had moved from St. Louis to Arizona. Everybody's like, I thought that was a baseball team. And
Mhm.
so I go and they have the fight. And after the fight, a big fight in the stands and the audience break out. I jump in to try to break up stuff, me and my
Right.
buddy. And it's like people swinging. One guy pushed me. I'm on the ground. My buddy picks me up. Just as he picks me up and moves me out the way, somebody gets stabbed right where I was at.
Wow.
And the San Francisco Police riot squad comes in, and I mean it was a big mess.
Right.
I just got drafted. I could have been dead. Still
Right.
tell my buddy every day he saved my life, because if he had not picked me up from that spot, I would have been stabbed.
Yeah. Right.
That was kind of like my draft story.
Wow.
And then right before I went to training camp, a little bit before I went to training camp, I was playing basketball, and you hear all those stories about players ruining their career playing, sports.
That's why they have a contract nowadays. You can't do certain things after a
Right.
big contract.
So I did that. I fell on my knee. My knee was swollen. Going to camp, I couldn't feel anything from my knee down. My leg was numb. It felt like it was flopping around, but I didn't say anything to anybody. So I figured I would just fight through it, grit through it for the first couple of days, for the first week or so. Then I told them I got hit in the knee, and they drained it. But for the first few days, I couldn't feel it. It was numb because the pressure was against a nerve or something. So that's how my career started, where there were two opportunities. Wow. It could have just been over with. And then, and then I go and I get drafted, and they were kind of like, they didn't know what to do with me. They drafted me, but back then they thought I was too small to be a defensive end pass rusher. They didn't think I was going to be a pass rusher. They were like, "Are you too small to be a pass rusher? But you're fast, so you could be a third down cover guy." And I couldn't cover anybody. And so I kept telling them, I'm a pass rusher. And then I finally convinced them. I'm like, let me go against your guys in practice. And every day I would do my best to beat their best offensive lineman and would just try to destroy him. And finally they got in their head, maybe he's a pass rusher. So that's how it all worked out. So that was the career, yeah.
Man, that is a whirlwind events that happen, especially it's a good thing social media is around. That you would have been all over the headlines even more.
There's a whole bunch of stuff I could have been in headlines for. So thank God social media wasn't around. It's
you didn't do anything bad, right? It's just sometimes you're at the wrong place at the wrong time, but how media and how people perceive it. When people feel like they have to make a certain move because of the perception of the fan base, whatever, they kind of make that decision without really knowing what really happened. So
and people
that's the reason why I say that.
People, well, I'm not Khalid, I don't have a sainthood or anything, but it is perception, and people are looking to become famous off of you, and
of course,
some instances, like, dude, that's your buddy. Why would you film? Why would you do this?
Right.
And so, I got it, but it's a hard world because everybody's trying to get famous.
Yeah.
And if you're the result of them getting famous, then so be it. And that's not good either.
No, that's not the right. Like I said, that's not good business right there. That's how I perceive it.
Yep.
So after 5 years in Arizona, you come to the Washington Redskins, which you rooted against growing up as a Cowboys fan. I would say, from my perspective, and based on the paper, you had a great connection there. 4-time Pro Bowl, 70 Greatest Redskins, considered inducted to Washington Ring of Fame. What would you attribute? What was the connection? What was such a great fit for you guys, the football team and you?
If you go back to me dropping out of high school,
right?
When I used to train by myself, in my mind, I always say, I'm not going to quit. I'll never give up. I got to keep going. That's how it just, as I'm running, as I'm practicing, never quit, I keep going. Well, I was in Arizona. I ended up tearing my ACL, tore my rotator cuff in my shoulder, tore part of my labrum. So I had all these injuries that back in the day, they were saying those were career-ending injuries, right? Still end up coming to the Washington football team. And while you're here, my goal, my attitude back then was like, I want them to feel like they got a bargain in getting me. Not that, I'm charging them X number of dollars, is that they got a bargain in getting me.
Right.
So I would just keep working and, that same mindset. You can't give up. You gotta keep going. You can't quit. And so, one of the greatest compliments, I think, at least in my time when I was playing, was that I was at the Pro Bowl, and one of the guys, and I don't remember who he was, but he couldn't remember my name. He's like, "But yeah, I remember you. You're the guy who never gives up. You're the guy who never stops."
Oh wow!
And it's like, if that's all they know about me, then I've done my job, right? And so that was kind of
that's cool.
That was cool. And then you come here to Washington, and whereas in Arizona there was about 25,000 base fans, because remember we had just moved.
Right.
We came in. There were a lot of snowbirds coming in from different places, so they were rooting for other teams. So we had about 25,000 core fans. We had charged the second highest ticket prices, so we were never sold out, and we didn't have our own stadium, so we were playing at ASU. So we didn't get the TV publicity. We didn't have our own stadium. It was there.
Right.
Come to Washington, you got not only your own stadium, but you got some of the best fans, craziest fans, stadium
dedicated fan base.
Super Bowl. You got TV on the time. You got everybody was looking at you.
Right.
So come here. So the same stuff I was doing in Arizona, now you're doing it, but everybody's seeing it. It's on
Mhm.
TV, everybody, you got the fan base, you got all that stuff. So I had a better publicity of what I was normally doing here
Right.
than there. And then I had a lot of great people, Monty Coleman,
Yep.
Tim Johnson, Jim Lachey, all these guys. You can see why they won, and you can see why they went to the Super Bowl in practice.
Mhm.
And this was early on before they got rid of all of them. But in practice, they may beat me down, but then they were also telling me why and how they were able to beat me down.
That's great.
And so
Yeah.
that was making me better, right? And, you're
Mhm.
going against the best. And you had guys who would motivate you that, when you thought you couldn't get that extra one, they're pushing you, saying, come on, you got to do this. You can feel the teamwork. And so all those things kind of played into helping me as a player. And hopefully, if you've ever met other players that played with me, hopefully I was that type of person to them.
Right.
You transfer that mentorship type stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think even I use, for example, music. I talked to my buddies where I was like, "Hey, what song? What's the artist you're listening to these days?" And it's like, man, that person really blew up. But it's like, you know what? It's really years of doing this, putting that craft together that really brought them to where they're at now. It's not just a light switch. And like you said, you're a prime example. What you went through your childhood, dropping out, really had to put yourself together, go through Berkeley, getting drafted now, the injury that you suffered at Arizona. Is all of that shaped to where you're at and really got you ready. And luckily, we're a benefit of that for the football team because you definitely represented.
I mean, I appreciate it. Like when people say it now, especially I guess because I'm older, people say it now, and I'm always kind of like, you know what? I guess I was pretty good, but not in a cocky way. Just more like, you get the pats on the back, but it was like
Right.
I was doing what I enjoyed doing. I
Right.
mastered my skill set, and I think most people in life want to find what they're good at and figure out how to master it, right?
Yeah.
How to get success from whatever they figure they're good at, and so and then you can do the whole personality traits and all that stuff. But for me, I believe in the team and people. And the best
Hmm.
thing in the world was us coming together and knowing that we fought a good fight together. And
Right.
that was the great thing, was being part of the team. So that to me was, big time.
Nah, I definitely hear you on that. So we talked about you being a Dallas fan growing up. Now you're playing for Redskins, Washington football team. What are some memories that really stick out for you as a player going against Dallas?
Yeah. So a couple things. So like first game, right?
Uh,
My back leg was shaking so bad, nobody could see it, but my back leg was shaking. And then once you get the first hit, it's kind of over with. But the
right,
first
right,
time you
right.
step foot, for me at least, stepping foot out there, I was so nervous, nervous to death. Then I remember my first time, playing at RFK Stadium. I don't know if it was the first time, but I remember running and I'm getting ready to get the quarterback, and I hear the crowd screaming. But I listened to him screaming. And
Right.
so I'm like, wow, they're screaming for me. And so I took my eyes off the prize, and the quarterback juked me out. And I just
Oh
heard I go,
man.
oh. And so it's like you hear all things, and that just kind of taught me, always keep your eyes focused on what you're doing.
Right.
And then playing against Dallas, I mean, it was more, I wanted my dad to be able to go to work and to say, my son did this
Right.
against in Texas against the Cowboys. I
Hmm.
wanted him to be, my boy did this against him. And so to me, that was like the biggest thing. Hitting Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, you hit some of these
Hmm.
guys, and these are guys that, in the league, they're guys that even though they're your enemy, you respect. And
Exactly.
so the Cowboys during that time, they were the team. But I know I had good games against them. And so,
You definitely
so that
did.
was kind of cool.
Was there any conversation with the Cowboys of you going back to Texas? I know a lot of people when they want to retire to go back to where it all started.
By the time I retired from football or stopped
Yeah.
playing football, my kids were a certain age, and we had neighbors, friends, our church. Everything was here, and so this was a
Hmm.
community that we stayed with, and a lot of staying is about community and about friendships and
Right.
relationships. And then also in DC, this is a great area. Um, I think, looking back, I've debated back and forth. If I had to do it over again, would I have stayed here or would I have left?
Hmm.
I don't know, because leaving was for a different reason. Leaving would
Right.
have been so that you could have found yourself in another way outside of being known as just a football player. And
Right.
that's what a lot of times guys do. They want to get away so that they're not just that person.
Hmm.
go back home or staying here. There are a lot of advantages here and staying here and doing that. So yeah, I don't know if I would have left if I had to do it all over again, but this is a great place. It's a great community. Like I said, my kids and our neighbors at the time, their kids were the same age, so they all grew up together. Some of the former players, they grew up with their kids, and it's the one thing that made Washington great was that a lot of the players were family units, right? And they would all hang out together. So we kind of came in on tail end, but we would hang out with the Darryl Green, Art Monk, Charles Mann, go on family vacations together, Money really cool. Coleman, all that stuff. So that was a cool part.
That's one thing I really noticed with a lot of Redskins alumni like yourself that's not from this area. You guys still stay in the area after the playing days. So when I talk to my friends a lot of times, they're like, I get bored of being in this area. I'm like, you'll get bored anywhere you're at. But when you think about the DC area, the jobs are here. It's a great family place, great school. And there's the beaches here, the city's there. You got a little bit of everything. So I really did notice that about the players, and that tells a lot. Could you guys have traveled all over the world, all over the
state? Look, it's a great place, but like anything, it's home is where the heart is. You make it into you'll make it into what you want. But this is essential. And as a kid in Texas, you grew up in seeing DC and seeing the Capitol and all those were like the TV shows. I'm a TV person.
Yep.
And this is the place of power and the mystique and the president and all that stuff. And so staying here, you realize this is a place of ultimate potential of whatever you want. You just got to kind of make it into what you want it to be.
Talking about you being in the area, you've done a lot with the community outside of football, which I really am excited to talk to you about. Children's book. This is something that you started going into, writing books, authoring. Where did that come from? Where did that aspiration come from?
It's a great story. First children's book I ever did, and start off with a children's book, was for my boys. One of my boys came home and they were talking about, they asked a bunch of questions. I'm like, why? And they were like, there's a cartoon on TV that if you win, you could be the cartoon. But they were saying there were no brown characters. This is 20-some years ago, right?
Right.
And it just, as a father, it broke my heart, because it's like, man, I want my boys to see themselves as a character. Any other kid would see themselves as, it's a book, but I want my boys to know that they have a place. And so I was like, I want to do a kid's book. So for me, I did a couple of words, just simple words. But at that time, the backup linebacker to me was a guy named Terry Crews.
Yep.
who is an amazing artist. And so we kind of thought along the same planks. And I gave him a couple of words and said, here's the story I want. And he did this amazing job of artwork doing it, my boys as the characters. And so we did a book. Okay. And the Washington Post printed up a bunch of them, and we gave them away to kids in DC.
Okay.
So that was kind of like the first start of saying, wow. And you could see how that book was planting seeds in people's lives, in those little kids' lives, subliminally, even where my kids saw, wow, that's me. Every brown kid could say, wow, that's me. But any other kid would read it and say, wow, that's me. Because all they were doing was playing hide and seek. Any kid plays hide and seek. Subconsciously, they're saying that's me. And so that was the first kids book. And then after that, I just started writing books, and it was fun to do. Hopefully to try to get a message across, plant a seed, and to make a difference. So I did. That book was called "Come Find Me." I did a series of books called Life in the Fridge. The first one was called Life in the Fridge, when chocolate milk moved in. The Extra story. Then we did one called Fear in the Fridge, Bullies in the Fridge, and the Fridge Games, which is kind of more about exercising. I did a follow-up book to my boys when they were 12 and 14 called Brothers of the Storm. A book that I'll read probably in a couple of days called Daddy Help Me. It's kind of Father's Day. And then recently I've done a couple of books. One's about financial literacy. It's called The Me That Needs to Be. And I'm doing a couple other books coming out now. And then I have thriller suspense novels. I wanted to always kind of test myself to see if I could do it. So I have 2 thriller suspense novels that, murder and killing and all that stuff.
Right.
Looking at me like, whoa, you're writing this stuff. And I'm like, look, I did play linebacker. There's a side of me that got that, that side.
Right.
So I, and I'm not, I don't know if I'm a a great writer, but for me it's cool to be able to know that you can take a sheet of paper and create a story in a
Story.
world.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier, flip it around, it goes back to that childhood of me watching TV all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're taking it and you're trying to create this world. And then hopefully in that world, there's a message. Not, people don't want to be preached to. And, hopefully my books aren't preachy,
Right.
but there's a message or a seed that I'm trying to plant, and then hopefully people will get that.
Touching Heart, this is the foundation that you founded. Can you talk about a little bit about the mission and kind of how that all stemmed about?
So I didn't found it. It
Oh, you
wasn't
didn't
me.
found it? Okay.
Yeah, it was so there's a lady named Helen Yee.
Okay.
And so she saw her grandmother, she's from Korea. She saw her grandmother taking in orphans and really helping them because they had nothing. And then on her daughter, on her, I think it was her 16th birthday, said, instead of getting presents, I want to give to people. And so they started, her and her daughter became co-founders of this nonprofit called Touching Heart.
Mm-hmm.
And their purpose, the mission of Touching Heart, is to help kids to become young, as we say, young, compassionate leaders, to become leaders, but to learn also the compassion part, to learn how to give, learn empathy, to learn how to love on each other, which we're finding more and more as we get caught up in our technology and our world. People becoming more and more separate, not learn how to, basic things that you think should be automatic. It has to be taught, love, empathy. You don't know how to feel pain until you've actually saw a homeless person, talk to a homeless person,
Right.
maybe even slept on the floor for a little bit. You don't get it until you get it.
Right.
And so we try to help young people understand, learn that, but then also empower them to give. If they want to give, to help them create the event that they want to put together, to raise money for whatever they want to. Sometimes we'll match it, but we also want to instill leadership qualities in them. So as they become adults, they can become the leaders of the future, but with the understanding that there's compassion. And I think people get it mixed up where you think you have to be hard-nosed to be a leader. No, you can be compassionate,
There's
but
different styles of leadership.
right. And then being compassionate doesn't mean that you're weak. You got to make hard decisions. You're going to have to fire people. You're going to have to do stuff. But this goes back to what we talked about earlier. Sometimes it's also showing people respect. The guy who owns the company and he walks in and he says hello to the cleaning person. How hard is that? But some people don't do it. You're beneath me.
Absolutely.
So that type of stuff. So that's the nonprofit. I had been helping them, events and doing things for the last 10 years, but I just started as the executive director about 3 months ago, and really trying to take it to, I don't want to say take it to another level. I'm realizing that what like everything, what seemed easy and seemed like they were really making it happen.
Right.
When you start doing it on your side, it's a whole lot of hard work.
Right.
It's not that easy. So I'm just trying to get the message out and to hopefully continue with the success that they've had and build on it. Because to me, the greatest thrill would be someone like now, 10 years later, come and say, not just you play football,
right,
but, oh man, you did this and it really helped my life. This is how I'm a leader. And it doesn't mean leadership has to be power and you have to have this great job. It could be in your own household. Leadership could be, I'm a great parent to my kids. I spend time with my family, little things like that. So,
with Father's Day around the corner, what are some advice you share with fathers out there, and how has fatherhood changed your life?
At the end of the day, no matter what I've done, and this is my God honest truth, no matter how bad I feel, no matter what I've done, I always look back and say, thank you, God, for my boys. Because I mean, they're knuckleheads at times, don't get it wrong. But they're good kids. And I'm simple. I'm like, all I want, this is what I tell them, a hug or $1 million. If you can't give me $1 million, then keep hugging me. The moment you can give me $1 million, and you stop, forget your hug, give me my money. But to me, if my kids feel comfortable and they call up and say, "Hey, Dad, love you," that's the greatest thrill in the world, right? I
Yeah.
think Father's Day is that we have responsibilities as a father, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you don't know it because you've never been taught yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Your responsibility is, and it's not that a woman can't do it, but your responsibility is you got to model on both
Right.
sides. You got to model what it means to be a man on your boy's side and for your daughter's side. You have to model what it is, and then you have to define what that is being a man is. And
Mm-hmm.
we've gone through generations where it's totally different. And one time it was to be a man was to be strong, solid type. And
Right.
my dad never said anything, and so this is the way I'm just never saying anything.
Right.
You go through this period of men need to talk and become overly emotional. There's a balance, I think.
Right.
But we need to plant the seeds, and we need to be that rock. When they need somebody to cry or something to hit on or
Mm-hmm.
somebody to talk to, we need to be that rock. And
Right.
that's, I think, what's a father. As your kids become older, hopefully they'll talk to you like adults. And the
Right.
greatest thrill to me would be, it would be interesting to see how my kids are with their kids when they have kids.
Right.
Um, that to me would be a great thing. So we'll see what happens, see what type of job I've done, but I'm looking forward to that. But once again, that's on them. I can't
Right.
control, whether they have kids, whether they get married. That's on,
Right.
they got to live their lives, and you got to give them room to do that. I think life was toughest for my oldest son, not toughest, but he had a hard time because everybody wanted him to be me, and he
Right.
had to
Yeah.
find his own path, right?
Right.
So he's an IT guy now, and that's his world, which is cool. He found himself, but he
Right.
had to struggle. He has a story too. He struggled a lot, and then
Yeah.
and now he's out on the other side of it.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Everyone has their own stories. Everyone has their own journey, which is a big reason why I actually put this together. During COVID, I really reflect on like what I want to be known for. I have a 9-to-5 job, but like what else I want to do? I love giving back to the community. I love sports. So I'm like, let's put this together.
It is amazing. Not in the sense, but like growing up, I would have never thought that an average person, would be able to talk to a celebrity. Not so much this technology, it's how did you get from wherever you were to be able to get to contact me?
Right.
It was you, it was relationship, it was perseverance, it was whatever. Technology was the
Right.
vehicle,
It
but it
helps.
still
Yeah.
took you to do it, right? And so, you are a testimony to, all these other probably people, younger people, that if you have a belief and you have a dream,
Right.
you have to work on it, but you can do it. It's a
Absolutely.
possibility. So, like once again, maybe I'm kissing up to you so I can be back on the show, but
I
congratulations, you're doing your thing, which I
appreciate
think
it.
is amazing. And I'm amazed at that. I mean, I applaud you. I started a podcast for a minute,
Mhm.
and it takes time and dedication to keep it going.
It
And
does. Yeah.
and you have a job and you're doing this on the side. That's a pretty cool thing. So good for you.
Hey, if you love what you do and you get an opportunity to speak to Ken Harvey, I mean, I don't care what I'm doing, I'll pick up and do it. So
That was
that's
good. That
for
was a good
everybody.
answer because I was setting you up for you to say exactly that. You did well, young man. Good job.
It was truthful. It came from the heart.
That's awesome.
Speaking of Terry Crews, what are movies that you really enjoyed of him in? Some movies that really pop out for me is Friday After Next and White Chicks. But is there a favorite of yours?
Okay, so actually I never thought about that. Is there a favorite? I I don't know if I have a favorite, but in his movies, like I know him,
Yeah,
and so he isn't that far from his movies. Like that personality in White Chicks,
yeah,
that's him. That funny guy, that's him.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
when he,
yeah.
when he throws the jokes, when he's on America's Got Talent, that's him. He's a good person
Mhm.
with a good heart, and you see, and that's him. Sometimes I laugh because I'm like, man, that ain't you. You can't do that. But in the locker room, he used to joke all the
Right,
time, and was good. We would go back and forth, not me and him, but team players would go back and forth against each other, clowning each other, and
right.
he was always at the top of the game with that. So I think he did Idiocracy, where he's macho something. He was the president. That was kind of funny. But White Chicks, I think, was good. When he did the whole making my way downtown, that
Yeah,
that was
yeah, yeah.
And I always I would look at that and say, could I have done that? I don't have that personality. It's his personality.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more the serious guy, kind of serious, but different type of personality. So he's good. And if you go back and you read his books and his stories,
Mm-hmm.
man, his journey when he left football, and to a point they were like dead broke. Him and his wife, was a massive supporter of him.
Oh yeah.
With their kids, said, you keep talking about your dream is to be a producer and you want to do
Right.
this and that. We need to pack up and go to LA, quit talking about it and do it. And they
Right.
went there, and he's struggling. He's sweeping floors. He's jumping in the back of the pickup truck. He's
Wow.
working in places. But what he did was also he bettered himself. Every time, he would go to the library, he would read books, he would study. And same thing. You start throwing it out there to the universe. You start putting yourself in a position, things
Right.
come to you, right? And so, he did that, and he got his first role, I think, was with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then his personality persevered beyond that. So,
Mm-hmm.
good guy. We still talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
I say that because I'm still amazed. Like, you can go and lose your friends, not
Right.
necessarily intentionally. He's busy. He's
Right.
met
Right. Right.
mega superstars and whatever. But we'll still talk every once in a while, and all we do is just joke. We just
Right.
clown and to have a good time and joke with each other. But he's also said, sometimes you need that. You need somebody that's don't want anything. That's why I try not to really ask him for a whole lot.
Yeah.
Don't want anything. Just want to have fun, and you joke
Exactly.
about your memories, and that's pretty much what we do. Is just joke around, so people are like amazed, like we just joke.
So going back to a little bit to the name of the Washington football team, if you had to rename it, what would you rename it? What's your thoughts on the name right now?
I mean, so quick story again. When I came here to Washington, there's another player. I don't know his name, but he had 56, which was my number with the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, could I get number 56? And they were like, he hasn't. He's like, well, I'll sell it to you. And I'm like, man, I'm not paying you any
Wait.
money for that bloody.
Right.
And so I go in. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, it's not the person, it's not the name, the number that makes the person. It's the person that makes the number.
100%.
Meaning, if they stayed the Washington football team, even if they stayed with that name, if they're winning and balling, people will start walking around like, oh, I'm part of the Washington football team. Everybody will start
Right.
loving that name. It's when you're losing, you could be called, Washington, Dragons, whatever. You can have the greatest name on earth, but you're losing. No one cares. You
100%.
create, you make the name. And that's been out my mind says like the team will make the name, regardless of the name. I mean, I've heard a few of them go around. But regardless of the name, it's what the team believes in. What do
Yeah.
you believe in? And I think that's what they'll probably do is focus on what is the core of who is Washington.
Right.
We are a team. So if they just stay, like I said, if they just stay with the Washington football team, let's define what does it mean to be a team.
Right.
And let's play like being a team. And so when people say Washington football team, they're gonna say, that's a team. That's my definition of it.
Right.
You create that, then everybody's walking around with these Washington team jerseys on.
Mm-hmm.
Should they have changed the name? I mean, if it got to a point where it became offensive to people, and I could see it both ways, right?
Right.
Some Indian groups liked it, some
Right.
didn't.
Right.
But you start looking around the league. I mean, it was the Arizona Cardinals. It was the Phoenix Cardinals when I got drafted.
Mm-hmm.
It got changed to the Arizona Cardinals. You got the
Yep.
Las Vegas Raiders. Who would ever thought that? Names change.
Mm-hmm.
It's the teams that create the legacy beyond that. The hard thing is the legacy of the former players who created that Washington Redskin legacy of what they've done and who they are. And so I think that's the harder thing. And it's beholden to the team to respect and enhance the name of the former players who sacrificed to build up their brand. Even though you may have a different name, there has to be a level of respect for the guys who played previously.
With it being summertime, everyone wants to get their body ready for the summer. Honestly, for you, sir, you still look like someone that should be in the league right now. If I had a personal trainer, I would ask you to be my personal trainer. What is some advice you share with some folks right now?
Part of it is, I told my wife, like my wife works out and she's
Right.
old. I shouldn't say this, but she's a year older than me, but she looks like, everybody thinks she's my daughter. Right. And
That's great. Yep.
so I keep telling her, and she puts on 300, I'm gonna be 300 with her. Just say the words, but she likes to work out. So one, it's cool if you can find a workout buddy. It pushes you a little bit more. Vary your exercises so that it's to get in shape and all that stuff. You're gonna go through a period of pain, but after a while, that pain becomes pleasure. You start expecting to work out. You start wanting to work out, but you got to get that first 20 days, 30 days of pain that you're gonna have to go through, 40 days of pain, to get to the point where it becomes a habit and you start wanting to do it. I would say, like I say, vary your exercises as you get older. I'm realizing on my side, it's what you eat and flexibility are two big factors. So stretch and also watch what you eat. As much as you are young, and when we were young, we could burn stuff off. It catches up to you. You start taking your physicals and start looking and saying, high blood pressure, whatever.
Right.
So you got to take care of that stuff. I appreciate you saying that about my body. My whole theory is, as long as I keep my shoulders bigger than my belly, it looks like a V, I'm good to go. Don't have me take my shirt off, but I'm still.
I was telling Tom, man, you look like an action figure still. Like, you're just a solid dude. Like,
well, you know what? It's I'm still working. It's not as it's not as tight as it used to be. But I still work out, and fortunately, I've been afforded the time that I can still work out. It takes time and effort, and you got to decide: do I want to wake up early or go to bed later so I can get a workout in? Especially if you have kids and all that stuff. But I also think you can do it, and there can be some fun ways to do it.
Absolutely.
So get out there and just do it. That's the key. Everybody's not going to have a six-pack. Everybody's not going to have the perfect body.
Right.
But there are a lot of people with the perfect body in the cemetery, and a lot of people
100%.
with so just take care of yourself first. And that's physical as well as mental. I think people leave out the mental part.
Mental is very important. That's most
stress,
important.
mental, just even having people to talk to. The NFL Players Association, now they have, we have some skill sets, and I'm talking to counselors now.
Right.
It helps me, and you don't want to say it's not mental illness, it's mental clarity. It's talking to someone.
Right.
They have some more experience than you do. And so, if you can find, you got to exercise your mind as well as your body and your soul, mind, body, and soul. And all those three go in line, mind, body, and soul. So that's what I suggest.
If you want to look like an action figure and a football player like Ken Harvey, there it is right there.
Yeah, well, the guns aren't as big as they used to be, but they're still working.
You don't want to scare people too much, man.
Well, you know what? That's it. It's like people. I smile a lot more now, but people used to walk up to me. It's okay, baby. You don't have to look so mean. I'm like, I just look like that. I'm like, that's just the way I look. I'm just, you just have those intense linebacker eyes, but I think I try to smile more now, and that may be scarier.
It's like he's up to something.
So, but yeah, I just have fun. Life is an adventure. Try to have
absolutely. Well, last question I have. Again, don't want to take too much time of your evening. I could go on for days if you're talking to you. What advice would you share for someone that's like trying to get, like someone that's in high school, trying to get like a scholarship to go to college for football? And what advice would you share for a rookie that's about to get drafted this upcoming season?
Good question. So high school, trying to do it. Hopefully you got good coaches and listen to your coaches. Train. I always tell people there are three things that are going to make you great, right?
Okay.
You could be a natural athlete and have natural athletic ability, but that's going to only get you to a 5, because every level you go up, the people that were like your best person that you've ever played against,
right?
Now that's everybody on the team on the next level.
Yeah.
Right. High school, everybody in college was all the best in college. So if you have the natural ability, if you're a 5 is your natural ability, you got to bust your butt to try to make it a 10. So natural ability, intelligence, study, watch film, understand the game, learn the game, and then heart. You got to be somebody that doesn't know how to quit, that don't know how to give up. And if you
Right.
can focus and combine those things together, then you're great. When I say intelligence, is if you're not catching the ball and you want to get better, then look at film, learn routes, learn from people. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Right.
That said, if you're a rookie and you're coming into the pros, I would say, the career is a great career, but it's a short career, very short
Yeah.
career.
Right.
And so strategize for the long game, which is your life. And people told me that I didn't listen, I was cocky. The lesson in life is the same thing that makes you great is the same thing that can destroy you.
Absolutely.
That same pride that you have of being the very best is the same thing that can destroy you, that will stop you from listening to somebody or taking advice or doing whatever because you're so prideful. It's the same thing that will
Right.
make you not say no to an investment that is no good, but you put money into it. So you're like, I'm gonna keep putting money into it because you're so prideful,
Right.
lose it all, right? So remember, the same thing that makes you great is the same thing that can destroy you. And
100%.
then enjoy the ride. Football's not forever.
Mm-hmm.
So have fun while you're doing it. Make the connections, relationships. You're going to get an opportunity to meet people, get in the doors that you've never been in before. So take
Yep.
advantage of it, enjoy yourself, and create a legacy for the next generation. The greatest thing, and it wasn't because of me, but the greatest thing is that you start looking and say, my parents never would have even imagined going to college. And then they
Right.
had a son who went to college. I didn't end up graduating. I still got a couple of semesters to go back to finish up. But then I got both of my boys who graduated, and both of them got their masters.
That's amazing.
You're trying to build up generation on
Yep.
top of generation on
Yep.
top of
Yep.
generation. And so, enjoy that in the sports world because you have an opportunity to build to the next generation and enjoy that.
Yep.
So that's it.
Ken, you are a great leader, motivational speaker. You even motivated me. And what I really enjoyed about our conversation heading into it is I had a lot about football in my mind, but I'm glad we really could connect in other levels about your journey to football and even life after football. So it's very influential. So I appreciate your time, sir.
You know what? My pleasure. I'm always excited. I sometimes like, God, I'm telling the same story, but then you realize that story may be for that one person that needs to hear it.
Exactly.
Just as I've picked up books that I've had in the house for like 5 years, and I pick it up and finally read it, and at that one time, those words were perfect for my life. So
Right.
I appreciate you having me on.